Okay. Okay, the appointed hour for the meeting of the Water Quality Management Committee having arrived. This is Thursday, March 20th. And the quorum being present, we have an agenda. With the permission of the committee, I would like to take item number 9 out of order, which is the review and votes of the minutes of the prior meeting. Hearing no objection.
I abstain.
That's right, you weren't there. Okay. So everyone has had a chance to see the minutes of the prior meeting. And are there any comments or questions or suggestions?
Nope.
Okay. A motion to accept the minutes will be gratefully received.
So moved.
Okay, moved and seconded by...
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, moved and seconded to accept the minutes of the prior meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. I think Virginia has...
Mr. Chairman, thank you for taking the minutes out of order. This is Carol Sutherland, our secretary's last evening with us. And we thought that we should comment on what a wonderful secretary you have been for all of us. I understand you originally came to the first meeting and that was going to be the only meeting you were going to take minutes, and then somebody else was going to be. But she decided it was such an interesting topic and wonderful people. And so she has stayed on with us for...
It's almost 3 years.
Almost, yes, it's been a long time. So we thought that you shouldn't just exit and without some recognition. And at the same time, we're very fortunate to have your replacement, Ali Olmsted, sitting over here, who will be coming on. So we wanted to provide you with some little memento. And so I'm going to turn it over to Steve Layton.
Elves got busy again. It says, Carol Sutherland, Water Quality Management Committee, noteworthy recorder.
There we go.
It's just too much. Thank you so much. I can't tell you.
Give her a microphone.
Possible to know less than nothing. That's what I knew when I started this gig. I knew less than nothing, and yet I just learned as I went along, and I can't tell you how much I've learned and how much in your camp I am, and I promise to be a cheerleader for this committee every chance I get. I'm the hit of the cocktail party circuit when I talk about composting toilets. So I am very grateful to have had this opportunity. Thank you so much, and this is absolutely priceless. Thank you very, very much, all of you.
Well, thank you for all you've done for us, and you're not leaving the town's service. I know you're moving on up, I guess.
Right.
But,
well, over.
Over.
Moving over.
Fair enough. All right.
Thank you again.
And
Well,
just very briefly, I thought that the master carpenter should be recognized as well. So I brought you some plum jelly.
All right.
He made this, he made the bowl, and there's another bowl over there. And so, anyway,
And so with the concurrence of the committee, we have some cookies and we have some juice, and if we could take a 10-minute recess so that everybody on the committee and not on could have a chance to thank Carol in person, we'll do that.
We'll do that.
So 10-minute recess for Carol.
Yay.
What kind of wood have you made these bowls out of?
That's cedar.
That's cedar.
And that's poplar.
Oh,
popular.
I love the grain on it.
You know the tree at the corner of Mill Road and Woods Hole Road that was cut
Yes,
off
yes.
and had a stupid pink flamingo on top of it?
Yep.
It's from that.
Local and Woods Hole Road.
It's since been completely cut down.
But for the longest time, it had a pink flamingo.
That might be the last one.
Virginia put together and the committee adopted and the town meeting enthusiastically agreed to and sent to the legislature. It's the premise, as you remember, was to lower the cost for homeowners in the proposed sewer service area. It did so by allowing the payments to be spread out over 30 years, allowing the interest rate to be as low as 0, allow the payments to be fixed as opposed to high at the beginning and low at the end, and allowing the bill to be paid in quarters. So that is now the law of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and the town of Falmouth and the selectmen can utilize it to keep the cost low for the homeowners. Tim Eden spoke to me this evening and told me that he thought it was such a good idea, he filed the bill as a statewide bill. So if that comes to fruition, every town in Massachusetts will have the benefit of the wisdom of Falmouth. So
Congratulations.
good job, guys. Now on to the agenda. Update on Crocker Pond monitoring program.
Sure.
See ya.
There is a sheet that I sent by that's just a proposal. It was sort of a draft to get us all thinking. It's been reviewed by SMAST and the Cape Cod Commission for a way to start establishing a baseline of testing for Crocker Pond. And the idea was to first look at what makes sense for pond monitoring. And the benefit of this approach is that it follows the Ponds and Lake Atlas sampling parameters. And the thing about those parameters is that there are 3 independent sets of data that are collected that then can confirm or not confirm each other. And that makes for a very strong analytical understanding of the estuary, or in this case, the pond and the ecosystem. And those 3 parameters are nutrients, dissolved oxygen, and water transparency and color, and those sorts of observations of biota, that percent biota coverage. So it's an approach that SMAST is very comfortable with for creating a baseline for an ecosystem. It's something that the Cape Cod Commission thinks is also an appropriate triumvirate, if you will, of monitoring parameters. And it follows this PAL snapshot, which would have you take 3 depths for nutrients. So you do the top, middle of the pond, and the bottom for the nutrient sampling. But for dissolved oxygen, would have you go every meter from the surface to right above the bottom. So it includes both of those things. I did talk to SMAS to try and get a sense of the pricing. And so to do a program like this that included the nutrients and the dissolved, the nutrient analysis is a lab analysis. So we would send samples, they would do the analysis and give us back the results. It would be approximately $100 per sample. So we would decide, how many sampling, how frequent we would want the sampling to be, if we wanted it monthly, if we wanted it bi-weekly, if we want to start in August, if we want to do a snapshot. All of those things are up for discussion, but it would be $100 a sample. And then the second part of this is to have a volunteer corps actually collect the samples. And we have contacted the Salt Pond area bird sanctuaries, and they were quite happy to partner with us to help organize a core group of volunteers to do the monitoring. Because the idea is you go out in a canoe, 2 people, you go out in a rowboat or a canoe, and you take the samples and then you deliver them to SMAST. Very similar to the pond watch people for the estuaries, but nobody has started doing Crocker Pond or many of the ponds in Falmouth. So this is the idea of creating a volunteer, pond group. And Salt Pond Area Bird Sanctuaries is right there at the pond, and they thought it was a great idea. And so there's some cost associated with having the samples analyzed. There's a cost associated with having a technical memorandum produced. And if we were going to do a a long-term study that started early in the season and went to the end of the season, and had a tech memo. It would cost on the order of about $10,000, and that's if we did the whole thing. So that's where we are. The DEP has not signed off on this, so that would be a next valuable step, a significantly important step, and this is really just to let the committee know that we've made this level of progress in thinking and understanding and trying to implement something like this. But DEP has not signed off on it, and we want to be careful, because if we do more than DEP thinks we need to, we may be creating more expense than is necessary for ongoing monitoring. So I think we want to be really careful and not do as much as we can. I mean, I think it's sometimes you think, well, let's do it all, and sometimes when you do that, you've done too much. So I would say let's think carefully about how much we actually have to do. And Jerry may want to add.
No, I agree. I mean, this is going to be a permanent condition. It's the time for baseline, but it's not. We could have quite a while to wait for baseline, because we're probably going to get public input on the permitting of Site 7. So, I mean, we might be able to expedite some of that, but I think, it'd be good for the committee to at least authorize the money, because since this is baseline, it doesn't come under, you could say, the DPW budget. As we start implementing the rest of the project, eventually these costs will probably be long-term O&M costs.
Yeah.
Right.
Permit requirement costs.
Yeah, for the benefit of the national TV audience and the enterprise, Crocker Pond is, 1,800 feet away from the Site 7, which has caused some concern from the people who are in the area. Over the course of the last year, I think we've been able to allay, if not eliminate, most of their concerns. But they and we both agree that until you know the current condition of the pond, you can't know if it's changing as a result of anything you put in the ground later on. So that's what this is about, is to establish the baseline with the cooperation of the neighbors and all the neighbors. You've got Mr. Bunker working on this too, I believe.
Yes, Andrew Bunker has graciously agreed to be one of the sample collectors. So he is. Great. He and I went out last summer and did what's called the PAL snapshot, and so he's committed to continuing to do that, which is just great. Thanks for the context.
Well, she's not asking for money tonight, but she's putting it out as something that the town will want to see happen, and we want to see happen.
I certainly like the idea of a lot of data to create a baseline, but I want to hear more about the context of what it's a baseline for. In other words, presumably you're going to be doing this or some subset of this every year into the future to see if and when something bad happens to Crocker Pond, or to show that nothing bad is happening.
I think right now.
And do you want to spend $10,000 a year for that? Because once you get this set up, there's a lot of tendency for people to say, well, do the same thing next year, and so on.
Right. And that's why I was saying we'd want to sort of hone in on, do we need to start early? Can we start later in the season? Sometimes what you do the first year, and we've seen this a little bit with the monitoring for Little Pond, is you cast a wide net and you look early in the season and late in the season, and then you realize that you're not seeing anything significant in May and October, and so you actually drop those dates because there isn't biological activity. But to answer the first question, the importance of getting a baseline is to understand, to be able to quantify, what is the phosphorus concentration, what is the nitrogen, what's the total inorganic nitrogen, what's the total organic nitrogen, to really have a sense of what those parameters are and watch them over a few year period.
Well, that's what I was going to say. We have how many years until you could possibly be doing harm? 4, 5?
Oh, longer.
Oh,
10.
Much longer, maybe longer than that, too.
So if you have a finite of pre-money, pre-construction money for sampling, you have to decide whether you want to spend it all in 1 year or whether you want to spend it over several years. Because that's a good kind of standard deviation to get to reduce, too.
Right, but I think that
Year-to-year variation.
maybe a more operable question is, when are we going to start discharging to Site 7? Because
Yeah.
that's when the conditions change, because it's hypothesis how many years it takes to get there, and it's very likely a few. But the idea would be you'd want to have some baseline conditions before anything has happened at Site 7. So you'd want to...
Right, but I thought I heard you just saying that was 10 years.
Well, it's certainly not, the discharge,
3-4 years.
Pick a number. I don't want to argue that. I'll believe
Virginia.
whatever
well,
number you
there's two
say.
considerations.
Virginia, pick a
Okay.
number.
The earliest that you will have a discharge will be 2018. Takes 5 years for the groundwater to reach
Okay.
from there to Crocker Pond.
My point is not
Right.
arguing over the exact number of years, so let's take 4 years. If you have a finite amount of money to spend in that 4 years, do you want to spend it all in 1 year, or do you want to spread it out so that you also take care of year-to-year variation in your baseline?
We could do PAL snapshots, you may be saying, that might be cheaper. Might not be useful, though, I don't know.
I think that if you have, you're going to see variation in the pond annually. And you also would want to be able to capture a trend in the pond health before
Exactly.
any changes.
That's right.
And that's a few years worth of collection and analysis.
So if everybody's happy spending $10,000 a year for 4 years,
Well, nobody's,
then
Happy.
that's
Happy is a big
precisely
word.
that.
But we're not talking money tonight. She's just talking about a project and
But
and what it might
ultimately,
involve.
you're talking about you are talking about money ultimately.
Well, but not
If it was
tonight.
money with no object,
Right.
do 10 times this.
Right. When she comes back with a real number for money, we'll talk about whether we want to spend that money that way. But go ahead, Virginia.
Just a couple other aspects. The pond hasn't been systematically looked at since 2006 or 7, as I remember. And then there was a little bit done last year. There's been a major change that will improve the pond, and that is the removal of a discharge from the highway, which was directly discharging into the pond. So it does make some sense to gather some kind of data this year, whether that actually is the same pattern or however wide we cast this net. The next year we can set aside for the moment. The other thing is the 10,000 is for the tech memo, right?
it's about half and half.
Oh, half, okay, and the other half is the
Is
cost
the
of the
monitoring
samples.
part. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was going to
All right.
say that
So
too.
forget
that-
the money, but there's still a scientific question for a given amount of sampling effort, to avoid using the term money. You do it all in 1 year, or do you spread it over 4 years so that you have, how important is year-to-year variation to pin down versus month-to-month? It seems to me you want some of each.
Ron.
Go ahead.
Well, I have 2 points, but...
Go.
Okay, I can go? Good, okay, good. On this, okay, I think this is good. I have another parameter to consider, that you may wish to consider. The first thing is that, okay, let's say we have a problem. Okay, let's say something happens. We don't anticipate happening, but it does. Then what? What is the plan? If this, we're going to do all this monitoring, so if a problem arises, which is why we're monitoring, right? So if it does show something, and there's a 5-year lag in the groundwater flow, because that's when it would show up, would be after 5 years, then what happens? What do we do? For 5 years, even if we stopped, in the case of phosphorus, even if we stopped all the phosphorus at the plant, there'd still be another 5 years of impact. So I guess we'd have to treat the pond until that would be corrected. Is that the idea, or?
We don't know,
Well,
because we don't know what the potential impacts are. We will have groundwater monitoring wells. So we will have indications or
Right, but-
precursors.
That's right, before it
Of
gets...
what might be happening long
Okay,
before
right.
it
So it
happens.
isn't just this, it's more of a program
Right,
than just the
right.
pond, it's just the pond.
Right, I'm not presenting
Yeah, the full monitoring
the
program.
full this is just for Crocker Pond, the ecosystem of Crocker Pond, to start characterizing existing conditions in Crocker Pond.
Right.
To understand what level of impairment it is. or
And the other
isn't,
piece
right?
that Steve brought up in another context is we're finding a 20% variation in some of these things year to year. So if you only did it for 1 year, you would,
The
and
little
then the
pond
next
data
year,
was crazy.
the next
It's
year
all
it went up 20%, you'd say, my God, something awful is happening here, when it could just be the natural variation
Exactly.
that normally happens.
Right.
So you need a number of years to keep an eye on that.
And the other thing you want to do is average a number of months within a year. You want to have several samples during
Right.
the hot season, July and August, and then
Right.
some in probably September and October. Because then if you average those values together, you actually get a better picture of the median, if you will.
But it doesn't get rid of year-to-year variation.
But it doesn't get rid of year-to-year variation. That's why you want to have, it was why the Pond Watch data is so helpful, because it's decades of data.
Okay. Ron had another point.
Yeah, the second point is there's recent studies have been done by Woods Oceanographic by Carl Lamborg. I don't know if you're up on the work. A press release came out from the Woods Oceanographic Institution on March 10th about a paper that came out last November. And Carl Lamborg is a water quality or specialist that focuses on mercury.
Oh, yeah.
And there's the effluent from wastewater treatment plants apparently liberates mercury and creates methylmercury and other things that draws it out of the soil. It's in the sand now. But the effluent from the plants, and this was basically documented with the Joint Base Cape Cod, or the MMR discharges. And so it's coming down now, and they're measuring it in Green Pond, and it's coming down through. So this is another, you may want to put that in as a factor to measure, because it's not so much of a concern for the lower, for organisms like shellfish that feed on low in the food chain, but it's more of a concern for finfish and carnivores like bass and things that might be in the pond. And I know out in the outer Cape, they've had problems with this from, I think it's from plant emissions. But this has specifically been identified. You may know this Carl. He's
Right down the hall from me.
Yeah, there you can chat with him. But I had a very nice conversation with him today, and he said it's relatively low, but it is something that's now out there, and is specifically related to wastewater.
But that would be true, that we have all these septic tanks that are even more poorly treated than the wastewater treatment plant effluent. So that's a generic environmental issue if it's wastewater, and if he's smarter than I am, it's right, it's wastewater. But if it's coming down now, it's from septic tanks, and what's the chemistry there? I think it's years before we really know. And we still don't know if the bioaccumulation in shellfish.
Excuse me,
Yeah, we've heard
Thomas,
that a few times now.
Yeah.
That's a good point. He's looked into septic systems as well.
Right.
So he has looked at that as well.
Could you send the article around to the members so we can all
I can
speak from
I can send it to
some
you,
familiarity with it? That would be good.
Have a look, yeah. And, but I think it's just, as we move ahead with this, it might be something, another periodic, I don't know how often to check for something like this. Another important point is with this work, because Mr. Patamas has been talking about contaminants of emerging concern. I guess mercury coming out, being emitted could be one of them, but he's also looking at samples that were collected by the Division of Marine Fisheries of fish and shellfish and all this stuff in terms of, when he has time, he's just doing it, but as a volunteer interest area. So some of those things are also being looked into for that, and so anyway, but the study he's been done on was mainly on this effluent from the plant.
All right, but you're going to send that around so we can all have a look at it. Steve?
Since collecting the samples is essentially free, it's the analysis of them that costs money, and writing the reports that costs even more money. Can they take extra samples and archive them?
They can only stay frozen for a year.
Well, but for inorganic things, they don't have to be frozen, right?
I think he's talking to mercury and things like that, or you're talking about the whole suite?
This isn't my field. I don't know the details of chemistry.
I do think they have to be frozen.
They do have to
even
be
for
frozen.
inorganics.
Yeah, because stuff starts growing. And...
Little chemolithotrophs do very nicely.
Yes, they do.
So, well, they don't change, they don't do alchemy, but anyway. Well, so can they be kept frozen? How hard
A
is
year,
that?
1 year. That's the when I've talked to SMAS about this, about archiving, because you want to collect samples maybe at the beginning of the year. For a number of reasons, I've asked this question. And the answer was you do not want to keep your samples frozen for more than a year or they start to degrade. That's the answer that I got. And that seemed like that passed the common sense test, actually.
Okay, well, this was the introduction to this issue. Everyone, you got to get input from DEP and from the rest of the committee and answer all these issues before we actually get into funding anything and doing anything. So, but thank you for starting. Any other comments or discussion on Crocker Pond monitoring?
Mr. Finneran.
Mr. Finneran. Microphone, please.
I was just thinking, I don't know if this has any value, but isn't it likely with the installation of the road water runoff that the state did, that we're actually gonna see an improvement in this pond year over year? And then, if it is the case, I mean, which one are we gonna pick for the benchmark?
That's a fair question. It's going to be different.
The idea is to understand the trend, and that's why you want to do a few years so that you can say, this is the year that that particular source was removed, the stormwater runoff. And so the concentrations in the pond, because it's a pond, you'll be able to see that going forward. So I think if you have a few years, you'll be able to have an average for phosphorus and the nitrogens, and then you'll be able to see clarity, water clarity on the dissolved oxygen and those parameters. And you'll start to have some numbers that you'd expect to see going forward if nothing were changing. When?
Sound good? Little Pond Shellfish Demonstration, SMAS 2013 Monitoring Report, Ron and Sia.
You want to start? Go.
Sure.
Yeah.
SMAS delivered a report on the monitoring from last summer. We were asked by the Conservation Commission as part of the order of conditions to report back to them by March on the results of that monitoring. And so the report has been sent to the Conservation Commission with spreadsheets of all the raw data so that anybody who wants to manipulate the spreadsheets can. That included the historical data for Little Pond, as well as 2012 baseline monitoring that was done, and the 2013 results. It's a lengthy report. It's about 96 pages. I did email it to everybody as a PDF. The formal presentation of the findings is going to be to the Conservation Commission Wednesday, the 26th. We're the first item on the agenda. They were very gracious in allowing us to go first. Dr. Howes will be there, and I today am finishing up the PowerPoint presentation that he and I are going to give collaboratively to the Conservation Commission. And should I spoil it and tell the end of the story?
Can we have a sneak preview?
The sneak preview, yes. Okay, the sneak preview is by 3 independent metrics. The area in the vicinity of the oysters shows water quality improvement. And those 3 independent metrics are the nutrient values. The nitrogen was reduced as a gradient going from the north to the south of Little Pond. The clarity and the light penetration increased in the vicinity of the oyster area. The nutrient numbers, the particulate organic carbon numbers went down, and the chlorophyll numbers went down. So by these independent metrics, which are documented in the report and will be presented with graphs and charts and and stations, because it's very important to understand the oyster area relative to the other areas. We saw a change even with the 1 million oysters that were put in July instead of June, and grew to an average of 3/4 of an inch. So we received a clean bill of health on the pitted oysters that are at Coonamessett Farm, waiting to be relayed. The test results came back formally. They're clean, they're able to be relayed. They're going to start out at about 1/4 of an inch to some of them are 1/2 an inch. So we're going to start with bigger seed. The seed that's going to go in early will probably go in June instead of July. So there's a sense even from the report that with that higher volume, this year's change will be even more noticeable.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Good news.
Great news.
Good news. Ron? He's a,
You put any kind of a percentage on that, the improvement?
No, it's not quantifiable at this point.
okay.
Yeah, I think that one thing about it is that this was a surprise. Okay, basically.
Not to you.
It was to me as well, but more so to me. Well, I don't know if it was, but it was definitely to me, because we didn't anticipate that at this stage of the process, especially getting the late start that Sia mentioned, that we would see this significant of an impact. I mean, I expect a significant impact, you know, from the calculations and modeling that's been done, but this was earlier. So this raises some questions about some of the assumptions that we've made. But again, it's very preliminary. It's an early stage of it, but it's great to have an impact that we can see with, as you said, with relatively small animals, and far below, because we'd envisioned a 2-year cycle, right, that would go on, which is what we're starting on in the next few weeks, and that we would have 2 year classes of oysters growing simultaneously. And we'll be doing that this summer as well. And the idea was that they would be getting almost to full growth size, but we won't be going that far in any case. So we'll see how far, but it begins to give us more information on planning and structuring the program as we move forward. But you know, we're just getting our toes in the water now, so to speak, and we're getting this stuff coming back. So I think it's a pleasant, very pleasant surprise, but one that we'll be continue tracking as well, because and it isn't variability. I mean, it's very well referenced, the work that they did, and this robust program was even beyond. They even did more than we thought they would, because they had an interest in doing more, and all of that cross checking and things gives a very substantial result at this point.
Great. Steve?
Can you say a little bit more about how you know there's a qualitative effect, but you can't quantify it?
Sure.
Is it the standard deviation?
It has to do with the standard deviation. It has to do with just the absolute values. And we're talking about 0.2 milligrams per liter over the shellfish growing area. So, without getting into the whole thing, if you think about, I don't have a map of Little Pond. If you think about Little Pond coming down,
right,
and you've got the head, LPH, LP1, LP1.1, 1.2, 1.3. So if you look at 1.2, which is right outside the oyster bed, and then you look at 1.3, these are the monitoring locations.
right.
Inside, what you see when you look at the graphs is a spike in chlorophyll, in total nitrogen, in total organic carbon. You see high concentrations because there are these phytoplankton blooms happening during the growing season above the oyster site. Because if you think about LP head, it's where a lot of the nutrients are coming in. So north of the oysters, you start to see very high concentrations. And then what you see are gradient drops, very obvious gradient drops of 0.2 milligrams per liter, 0.4 milligrams per liter, or micrograms if it's chlorophyll, but going through the oyster bed. And then you see another spike afterwards. So you see this very real effect, and if I didn't bring, obviously, Conservation Commission will show you the details, but that's the idea that you can see because of the way the monitoring stations were lined up, that there's a lowering of these concentrations through the oyster bed, and then they tend to rise farther south.
So you can't even put an upper or a lower limit on.
You wouldn't want to do that right now. You'd want to say, I mean, as a percentage. I think to be sort of responsible about it, you'd look at that, and then you'd look at the nitrogen that you pulled out in the meat and the shell, and you'd want to have a little bit of a
Well, that was
comparative
going to be my
analysis.
question, but Mark anticipated. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're not.
Might have to run the model too again to see how.
And
That would be the one that sort of says what the overall impact is. We'll take in the mixing and everything else. It's a very localized, positive improvement. But how does that interact with the whole mixing? And that's, right now, the model's the only thing we have. One of the better things we have to.
And they've made two recommendations, SMEST has, for next year. One is that at the end of next season, they evaluate whether doing a model run is an appropriate, whether they've got high fidelity enough data to do that. And the other recommendation is to add another monitoring station for the same cost. But honestly,
I was going to say, do you want to place bets on what they're...
yes, I would.
Yes.
But to add another monitoring station so that the resolution in the area we're talking about has got one more place. I think that's a good idea. And they've also recommended some other things, but we can.
I think one thing you touched on, I mean, there is something we can quantify, as you mentioned, and that is what we took out in the form of the animals, what it was. We know what's there in terms of nitrogen, and Ken Foreman's work with his students and coordinated by our team came up with some figures. So we have that. We're beginning to get the quantified dimensions to it. The reason I say it was a surprise is that it could very well be that and this is something we plan to look into starting next year, although this has been a factor that's been well known in this type of thing or considered, and that is the denitrification as a result of the animals being present may be enhanced. So it might be a microbial route too that they're going to begin looking at as well that could be also improving the conditions in the pond. And then there's another dimension, this I'll talk about in another part of the meeting, but so I think that is, piece by piece. We don't have the full picture, and we can't do the full, definitive anything, but we do have some things that are fine, that we can quantify, and some things that are indicative of what we can expect.
Steve, I'm sorry, John.
One of the things I'd like to encourage us to think about as we move forward with this is the oyster reef possibilities. And I think there's a real potential there to do ourselves a lot of good with oysters with a much less intense work schedule involved with it. In other words, if we establish reefs, they're going to take care of themselves, more or less.
Well, just that's a good point, but we have a very degraded bottom here. That's one of the things that
In
they've
Little
done.
Pond. But
Many of the other ponds as well, that they are, there's like, I talk about Green Pond, that people say they step in the pond and they go up to their hip in muck. And if you put anything in that, it's going to just sink in and die. And that's been seen in other areas. But oyster reefs are should be on the agenda, should definitely be a factor. It's just where we put them. I thought that even, as I mentioned in a previous meeting, that in Great Pond, where they're having that erosion in the southwest portion of the pond, that if it's good there, to establish reefs there might very well help with breaking up waves, reducing the rate of erosion. It may be a combination, but a biological or ecological solution to that problem as well. So.
If you're at the meeting on the 26th, bring it up with the Conservation Commission, because they obviously would have a lot to say about it, and it'd be nice to have them thinking about it.
Yeah. Sort of plant the idea that the areas where we could do it aren't extensive the way they are in Wellfleet, but that doesn't mean we couldn't look at it for limited application. Mr. Finneran.
Mr. Finneran.
If you were to try to establish oyster reefs, would it, coupled with that, would it make it easier for us to apply for permits to dredge just those particular areas? And would not allow them to grow better if that were the case? Remove the crap from the bottom of the pond?
Dredging is a whole institution by itself. Whether you can get dredges into some of the ponds, how you do it, just dredging is
I
expensive.
mean, yeah, I know, but the numbers are, I mean, we have the second lowest use of the dredges in Barnstable County, and we have the highest amount of estuaries. It just seems to me that there's something that's not, we may not be pursuing it.
If you
as-
can't get a dredge into the estuary, you can't dredge it.
That doesn't apply to all of it, I mean.
No, it doesn't apply to all of
That
them.
doesn't explain why we use them so infrequently, in my mind. but
Well, that's a
I
different
could be wrong.
discussion.
One other thing, there are other techniques besides bringing a dredger in. There's cutter type dredger things with pipes and things. You have to run the pipe the full length, wherever you're dredging, out to a barge or to somewhere.
All right, we'll bring this up with the Conservation
That's
Commission too.
most
Oh, yeah.
That's the bailiwick.
And the
I mean,
cost of the
we are
dredge.
running across
And
a
the
lot
cost
of
the
ideas, but yeah, they're the last word on that subject. Any other thoughts or comments on the Little Pond Shellfish Demonstration Project?
Just, as I mentioned, we're about ready to start year 2.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so again, I don't know, what is the schedule now for moving our angels back out into the,
I am waiting for the blessing of DMF.
okay.
The
all right.
official word, they've received the paperwork. We'll have a call into them first thing tomorrow morning, and we have all hands on deck as soon as we're
Oh, really?
ready
Okay,
to
that
go.
just immediately, as soon as they give the green light.
Yes.
Great, okay.
Spring is here.
Spring is here.
Spring is here. Happy
First spring
spring,
day,
everybody.
right here.
Yeah, boy, today was,
It's time to plant some oysters.
Okay. The next item on the agenda, the draft fact sheet for town meeting. Virginia, this is on Article 28, which is the multi-purpose article for construction.
Yes, as everyone knows, we have town meeting in about 2 weeks, and we have precinct meetings before that, and it seemed that we should develop a fact sheet, as we've done for the previous town meetings, of the issues that are relevant. So 428, which is the funding article, the bonding article, we've developed, it'll be sort of back to back. One side is exactly what's in the warrant in terms of the article, the recommendation from Finance Committee, which is to appropriate $49,820,000, and then the explanation. This is new debt replacing old debt. This is an authorization to bond. It does not mean it's all bonded at the same time, and it requires a ballot vote. The fact sheet itself basically walks us through what's Article 28, obviously, and then what projects it will fund. And does the press have a copy of this? Would you?
It was emailed to you.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I have.
Oh, okay.
In the box. Yeah.
Looks like that. And so it speaks to which projects will be funded. This is the Little Pond sewering funding, the Bournes Pond Inlet construction.
Excuse me, does anyone have a copy of this that we could share?
I have a copy.
Because
we go.
she would like one, and probably you too.
You want me to make copies?
No, I've looked at mine carefully.
Okay.
Yeah, do you need another one?
Sure. I mean,
Oh, that's the other
This
part.
is the back.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fine.
Thank you.
You all set? So there are 4 projects that are funded through this bonding article. The Little Pond Sewering Project is the one that we've spoken about frequently at these meetings, and that's the collection system for the Little Pond Sewer Service area, and also the discharge site at Site 7. The Bournes Pond Inlet widening, we have the design money, and that is about to commence. This will be construction for something that is several years from now, because the permitting and design process will take that amount of time. But in the meantime, we will be constructing the sewer project, including the plant upgrades. And there also is an improvement to the sewer system in Woods Hole for what's called infiltration inflow because there's salt water coming into the manholes there, and that was required under a settlement with the DEP. Those are the projects that we're doing. We are carrying out the plan that has been approved by the state, the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan, and the DEP, and also this settlement agreement that I mentioned. As you know, we've been working on this for several years, and so we've listed the history of the votes that town meeting has passed in order to bring us to this stage. And then lastly, we talk about how are we paying for it. There is no increase in the property tax. This is new debt replacing old debt. And we are expecting that the cost will be reduced because we are on track to receive a 0% interest loan from the state, and the state revolving fund, which will save us a significant amount of interest costs. And the selectmen have recommended that there will be a betterment to the properties within the sewer surface area, and that the split will be 70% to be paid by the property owners, and 30% by the town. So ultimately, over time, the town recoups about $28 million of this expense. That's what's in the fact sheet.
Any comments or questions or additions or corrections
One
to be
thing
offered?
to add is the back of the fact sheet just has the wording of the article and then the explanation that is going to be in the warrant.
Right.
Right, it's just a reproduction of what's in the warrant.
I think it'd probably be a clarification in the first, second sentence that says most of the nitrogen. I think it should be most of the wastewater nitrogen from south of 28.
Okay.
Because we still need, shellfish improvements and other things to meet the TMDL, so.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all know what it is, but.
Yeah. Okay,
well,
wastewater
we'll
nitrogen.
think about that,
Yep.
okay.
Okay.
South of 28?
Well,
I think
these are good suggestions. We'll take a
Yeah,
look.
you have to, yeah.
I don't have
You
my copy
two
to write
figure
on
it out.
anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll look at that sentence.
Yeah, I don't think south of 28
Yeah.
is as relevant.
Right.
That's
Great.
I just have a few things. There are a number of assumptions in here that I don't think have been set yet, and
Such as?
well, there are two. One is that the legislation that just passed for the betterments has an option of doing 30 years, but it could be 20. We don't know what it's going to be yet. It's up to the selectmen to determine that. And secondly, the legislation has a range of 0 to 2% above what the town gets. So the town gets a 0% loan that we're hoping for, which the way things are going, we should get it. It could be an interest rate of up to 2% above that. So that's not clear in this, and that would affect the statement about the 28.7 million at the bottom of the first page. It could be higher. If it were a 2% interest on it, there could be more money coming to the town through the betterments. So these are two factors. They're just not set yet, and
Well,
we're
that's right.
assuming they will be. I mean, this says something, so it could be misleading in that the selectmen may decide 20 years with the finance department, or they may decide 20 years and not 30 years. It's up.
well,
We don't
those
know.
relate to betterments, and this doesn't talk about betterments.
That's not in this article.
That has nothing to do with this. This is asking to bond a certain amount of money to construct the project.
Says-
How we recover the funds is totally different.
Okay, John, excuse me, John, I'm sorry, Eric, if it's
Go ahead.
okay. The last sentence on the first page, could you read that, John?
I don't have my copy.
Oh, okay, sorry. The Board of Selectmen have recommended that the betterment charge to the users in the Little Pond Service Area be set at 70%. 70%.
Right.
Thus, over time, returning $28.7 million to the town to reduce the debt. That's what it says.
Okay.
But it might be more. It could be more than 28.7 if the interest is 2% above. This assumes
Okay.
70% of 41 million is 28.7 million. but there could be interest on top of that, which would also come to the town.
Well, there could be, but it's very unlikely that it's going to be, since none of the selectmen have suggested that they were going to go that route, and we went to a lot of trouble to make sure that zero interest would be available.
But it's in the legislation, right?
Yeah,
So
you
it's
made
possible.
that point a few dozen times before this, and we understand perfectly well.
Well, it's not our-
At least
it's not
now
our
you're admitting
decision.
it could be zero. That's progress.
It's not our, yeah, but it's not our decision to.
Understood. It's a fact sheet. These
Yeah.
are the facts that exist now. Obviously, if the town meeting votes 50% instead of 70, it won't be there
changes,
anymore.
yeah.
All we can do is say what the selectmen have done. All they have done so far is recommend a 70% rate.
And why would the selectmen want to bring in more interest if they don't have to? It's going to be a balancing act.
He's right. They might want to charge 2. They might not want to get reelected.
Yeah,
You're right, they could.
yeah, well, it may
But
be.
we're not putting that in
The
either.
thing is, what we don't know is that we don't know what the final terms will be, and this makes some statements that make it look like, you know, we could say as low as, or something like this, because it, as you said in the last meeting, Eric, you said 5%. It could be as 5%, you said, because that's the law. It says you do 5%.
That was the current state law. We know.
But we also
Right.
don't know the cost of the project until it's bid. I mean, all we're doing, I mean, is...
That's a good point, Joe.
So
That's another point.
Good planning.
We don't know the cost of the project. I forgot to bring that up. We don't know the cost of the project, so we don't know.
But we've estimated it. And everybody could send Eric their comments from Virginia.
Yeah.
They could synthesize it. I mean, they've got a short period of time to get it out.
Yeah, I think the intent of this fact sheet is to help people understand Article 28 in general terms. I think we can, you know, fuss over a particular element of this because this is a work in progress. And clearly there's any bunch of scenarios that charge 0.5% or, you know, whatever.
Yeah, input number.
So you know, it could be any range. But I don't think there's anything in this fact sheet that is not true. And that's, you know, if there's something that's an error here, then I certainly want to know about it. But you can't include every single variable. In a fact sheet, you just, I mean, it begins to lose its purpose and its focus. I hear you, Ron. It's possible that we could collect more money from the property owners than 28 million, but I think that's good enough.
I expect there will be other people putting together other fact sheets that could include your facts, if you want.
They're not my facts. It's in the legislation, Eric. It's in the legislation.
Yes, and you're
we
right. There are
don't know
many
what the
varieties
cost
of
is.
possibilities.
Right, right. I'm not,
but
it's
then
not me.
Then it's
the
not
fact.
okay. Any other comments or observations?
I thought it looked fine.
I think it's good. You got to keep it, I mean, simple for town meeting to grasp.
it
We
can't
live
be
this,
too
they
wordy.
don't.
Well, that's right. It's got to be one page. We're not putting out a book here.
Right.
So, all right. Any other additions or corrections to propose?
Okay,
Oh,
so.
well, one thing we might want to put in,
Sure.
one more thing. We might want to put in what the cost might be per household. Like for...
Well, that's the betterment article.
That's the better.
That's Article
Okay.
27,
Yeah.
which we didn't write and we're not presenting, as far as I know. So, yeah, that's up to the people who are presenting Article 27.
Okay, all right, okay.
CDM Smith Permeable Reactor Barrier Final Report. They were here at the last meeting. They put on their presentation. Some people had some comments and questions that went to them, I think. Did they incorporate any of this? Or where are we?
I don't think we had any.
No.
This week we were
Ron
going to get some.
Ron wanted
Yeah.
time to review.
Right.
Okay, fine.
Okay, yeah, I just had a few things. And this gets somewhat back to the oyster project, oddly enough. But the question that I have, and I haven't seen their contract, so I can't say, I couldn't vote on this because I haven't seen their contract. But in it, it's unclear to me about the depth of the fresh water, which was measured in wells, okay? In the case of that area, it's like 40 to 45 feet down. All right, and it turns out I had a good talk with Tom Cambrieri in the county. He's the hydrologist for the county, and he did a lot of the work that they actually based the study on. So I was asking him basically that some of these assumptions that are made are that we have a 40-foot depth of groundwater relatively close to the embayments, to the estuaries. And the estuaries are like 5 to 8 feet deep, except for Perch Pond, strangely enough. I guess a heavy glacier was sitting there, and it's deep there. Yeah. But that little arm of Great Pond is surprisingly deep. But otherwise, they're like 5 to 8 feet deep. So the question comes in, and looking at this groundwater flow, that if it's about 5 times, if the fresh water is 5 times the depth of the pond below it, is some of it not coming up? Is it migrating right into Vineyard Sound without entering the little pond, which is very narrow in some places, and it just may very well be migrating? So, and a second factor to that is that with fish ponds, which just seems strange, but my background is in aquaculture, but there are ways of sealing ponds, and they do it in Israel and a lot of places, even in sandy areas, where they put organic matter in, and they put more and more organic matter in, and then this layer called gley creates. It's a seal. It's like a lining, an organic lining on top of a sand dune. Okay, and that will eventually seal and hold water. Maybe reduce seepage a lot anyway. So we have these estuaries that are covered in muck, okay, or a lot of them, good parts of them. And whether because we have salt water coming in and the salinity is up around 25 anyway, even in the upper reaches, we've got relatively heavy water sitting on this muck that could be creating kind of a seal. So it may make it more difficult for the fresh water to actually get in some parts of it. So the question is, in all of this modeling, because this gets into the MEP models as well, because in talking with Tom, a lot of the assumptions are that that all of it will end up migrating up in, but he said there is a possibility that a good part of that freshwater lens could stay down and actually just migrate, eventually make its way into the Sound without entering the estuaries. So it's, and especially since the heavier or the higher concentration of nitrogen at the lower depths, oddly, I think they discussed that as well, that a good part of that load could possibly be going out. So these are questions, I think, that weren't fully explored in their evaluation. As I say, I haven't seen the contract, so I don't know what, but I would expect that they could be looking at, and maybe this is questions we could just ask them if they would would like to at least indicate that there are some uncertainties that we can't answer today, basically, but there are things. And the reason I came back at the beginning of this to the shellfish is that we had an impact. And if we had an impact, which is very preliminary, but could it be because the loading is not as heavy as we envisioned? This is another, don't know that answer today, but in time we may know more about it. So it could be that some portion of what is considered to be coming in actually may stay down and migrate out. And anyway, Tom thought it was definitely a factor that needed to be explored further.
Okay, I think it's clearly outside the scope of this. In fact, they even in the sections recommend, if we want to, we explore better information on freshwater, saltwater. That's something we're working potentially with the USGS. They took existing wells and reported it back. And I think Tom was on most of the PRB review committees. So, I'm not sure what context we were talking in, but, this is pretty well beyond their scope. It very well may be one of the next steps we do on Seacoast Shores or even West Falmouth to see if it upwells outside, but that's getting into more research and we have to decide where we want to put money.
But see, this ties in also to the whole idea of the PRB, because let's say, for example, some of it is migrating, and we may not need to go down 40 feet. You know, DEP now apparently has an interest in our going all the way down. If we went down 20 feet, and that lower water, actually a good part of it stays down, we may, with the 20-foot excavation, remove 60% of what goes in the ponds, or something like this. It would be much lower cost, because you'd intercept that upper part, and if the lower part doesn't go in, or part of it, then, so it's just looking at the whole approach, I think, is of looking at various scenarios, you know, in this, and I think that that is something that as a scoping exercise, I would expect to be included.
Well, you're not going to get it from them. They have been very reluctant to step outside of the parameters of their assigned task, and they're gone. We have,
Yeah, no.
but it's a thought worth
Right.
talking about.
Their existing contract had no field work at all. It was only using existing information, of which the best we had was from the Cape Cod Commission
right.
and Tom Cambereri and Seacoast Shores.
That's all I used.
What?
That's all I used.
Yeah, right. But there's no question that at the end of the work that they did do, there are some really interesting questions. And part of that is that the original concept of the aquifer within the peninsulas didn't turn out to be what they had what they expected. They thought everything was going to come up right at the margins of the peninsula.
Right.
When you get to the southern end of the peninsulas, yes, that is direct discharge to Vineyard Sound. It's in the MEP reports, and it's just logical. So that we know, we call it the wedge. Each peninsula has a wedge at its southern tip that goes directly into the sound. The real question is how much farther up, and that's what you were alluding to, may that extend, and whether there's any sort of, you have shallow discharge to the sides, but maybe deeper discharge. And we just don't know. We need more information on the other peninsulas, and we need some more data points farther down Seacoast Shores Peninsula to tie together what we know with what we don't know.
And that would include West Falmouth Harbor. We don't have enough information for based on talking to see. We have a lot, but we don't have enough.
Right. I'm just saying that in terms of the way consultant is one thing, but the way we as a responsible body look at these things, it's more complicated, I think. And maybe not more complicated, but there are other factors. And as I say, Tom, who did actually he said a lot of the work, he was on the group that did that it's something that we should somehow document in the minutes, perhaps, that these are other factors that need further exploration as we move forward.
That kind of thinking reminds me of the theory that came along a little while ago, which is a true one, that the nitrogen coming from power plants in the Midwest has been diminished, and therefore the amount that comes to these ponds by way of rain is diminished. And the first reaction we all had was, well, they should adjust the model to reflect there's less nitrogen going in. And the response we get back is, well, there's still this much nitrogen in your water bodies, so if it isn't coming from that source, it's coming from another source. It isn't just creating itself here, it's coming from somewhere. So the fact that, which you could be right about, some of it may be going under the water body altogether, but there's still nitrogen in the water body that has to be removed.
There's another factor, and that's the time lag. Those models were made on information that was collected between 2003 and 2006.
Right.
I mean, we're practically a decade beyond that.
Right.
So as we get closer and closer to specifics, there become various reasons to revisit the hydrology.
Right, because I mean, it's interesting, we have this sort of cross-referencing now, because with the shellfish, at the beginning of the shellfish thing, but I think that these are all things that could basically, may very well reduce what we see as a problem. I mean, there was that 1881 paper by Ingersoll that showed that this guy by the name of Davis had written a letter in 1879 or something, or maybe Davisville Straits is named after this guy Davis, but he said that a lot of the areas were full of this black-blue muck at that point, then. So it's sort of like, you know, but we know from neighbors along Green Pond, for example, that they know, they've been there long enough to know that it wasn't nearly as bad
As it is now.
today. So, so there is, you know, that dimension too. We have to bring more current information.
That's why we're all here.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think that that this, the good thing about this, at least for me, is that it got me thinking about the various dynamics of how this might work. And then when you think about the ceiling and all this, it is an interesting.
Frankly, the most useful thing we got out of it is our initial sense of what a PRB should be. You know, this deep trench full of wood chips has now been basically declared undoable because of the depth, because of the utilities, because of the kind of equipment that you have to use to create this kind of a thing. That's dead on arrival. We can't do that. The only useful thing we could do is some kind of an injection thing, and before you do it, you want to know a lot more than we know about the hydrology.
Right, and you know, Tom also said, he said, look, in terms of what we're doing demonstration projects, so we don't necessarily have to go down 40 feet. We could go down 20 and then see what happens. We can study it and see what that does.
DEP was the one that was very keen on going all the way down to the water table.
I know, but
drove that.
as he said, it's a demonstration project.
right.
You can do what you want, basically.
That's
you know,
true.
to
Well,
an
we want
extent.
credit, so we better make sure.
Right.
Well, no,
we make
right.
DEP happy.
Yeah, I know we have to keep them happy, but we can do.
No, you're right.
It's our money.
There was a rationale for going as deep as we went, and that was that there is actually a concentration gradient as you go down. And Tom's wells from the 90s demonstrate that the concentration of nitrogen at the bottom is
Higher.
10 times higher than closer to the surface. And that's something that Brian House has echoed in some of his papers, that if you start looking at concentration gradients, you see that there's, for a reason that hasn't been clear, so that it's more like if you go halfway down, you get 20% as opposed to 60%. And I'm not done yet.
Yeah.
And the other information from USGS at Seacoast has been showing the same thing. So there is this real phenomenon of the concentration at the lower depths being very important.
And that might not emerge in the ponds. That's the big deal here, is that may stay down and go out in the sound.
But what is emerging
Well,
in the ponds?
Right.
That's
Only to a degree.
We don't know.
Okay, Mr. Finneran.
Is it possible to have a monitoring well in the water body?
Yes.
So if you were to take an arbitrary number like 20 feet, and you went down 20 feet in a water body that happens to be 8 feet deep, and then you went down another 8 feet from the bottom, wouldn't you be able to determine quite rapidly what the effectiveness is? If you saw that the concentrations, 8 feet below the bottom were reduced to any significant degree, wouldn't it indicate that that might be sufficient? I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a great.
That's the next steps we haven't paid for
I
yet.
think one of the things we're losing track of is that in these long embayments on our south shore, the water flow is lateral. It's not going out to the bay. So what are we going under? You mean you're going to go under and meet in the middle?
Yeah, right.
I mean,
You're going
the-
under
the
a portion of the
flow
estuary.
is not north-south. The flow is east-west.
East-west.
On those
But
peninsulas.
it's flowing into the water body east-west.
Yeah,
If you
well-
were to intercept it, I mean, even if it was flowing east-west, if it stays underneath, what's the,
well, it doesn't.
Oh,
stay
it doesn't stay underneath.
So
It surfaces farther out in the estuary, just as the way it probably surfaces farther out in West Falmouth Harbor. Just to answer your specific question, it's a little more difficult, but it is definitely possible to put monitoring wells out in the estuaries. That's something that, the U.S. Geological Survey is considering.
it would be nice to know. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I agree. You couldn't just put one in. You'd have to put in a network, but it is physically possible.
Yes, and USGS
It has-
is on the same page there, thinking
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
As you know, I missed the last meeting, so it's too bad that I can't present this to CDM Smith. But first, I need a clarification. The report I read is dated February 2014, and it says draft report. And Sia told me that that is the final report.
No.
I wasn't talking about that, I was talking about the monitoring report.
Oh, okay. So there is a report,
What's the date?
and that's the same one Ron has.
Yeah.
Does yours say draft?
This is the one they brought to us.
Yeah.
So that
And-
implies to the man in the street that there's another one coming.
Well,
right? If you
the
have a
premise
draft?
was they would make their presentation, we would comment, and I think our premise was there might be some changes made, but I think their premise was, we're done now.
Well, there are always possibilities for changes if there was a glaring technical mistake.
Yeah.
But, you know, to revisit the scope and say, think about this or think about that, we had almost a year of input with the regulators going back and forth. If there's something wrong, they will fix it.
Okay, yeah, you had some points.
Well, I had about 6 things that I sent in an email on January 15th. Don't ask me why this is dated February, and I could read
Yeah,
it
well,
in January, but anyway.
What were they? Let's not worry about the
All
date.
right. And they are, some of them at least, are the sort of thing that in principle I would think they could put in. And I don't have page numbers, but I could go back and do that later.
Send it to us.
For instance, they refer to this rejuvenation cycle time that they're using to derive costs. But they don't say whether it's the same for the different techniques. Because if it's not, the table of costs per recycle period is misleading, since the annual cost would need to be proportioned for each one. I mean, that's just simple engineering economics that they're not doing. And then there's number 2, there's a table of costs per household for the, quote, the demonstration project, and that is certainly not the same as a table of the expected costs per year, including O&M and amortized capital costs, which would be much more useful for deciding whether you want to do PRBs at all or when you do them. Number 3, is there a list of other projects involving use of this technology for residential nitrate removal as opposed to industrial and agricultural wastes?
The answer to that is no, but go ahead.
But a statement like that I would think ought to be in here. Is it true that phosphates cannot be removed at the same time as nitrates? Are there enough studies to convince the Concom and others that the effects of the injection materials are not harmful? The minimal fixed budget of hours and dollars that they put in here for permitting seems to assume that the Concom will roll over and say, do this. And the last one is there or will there be a study of how the costs will increase and or the likelihood of effectiveness decrease if this demonstration project is later expanded to more difficult locations? It's my understanding that the least expensive and most likely to succeed locations were chosen for the demo project, which makes sense, but by definition that means that all the others are worse. And so I would like them to speak to that and find
Just resend the email, and I think some of them may be fairly easily answered.
Okay.
We won't know until we ask.
Yeah. I think our initial sense was we were going to do the trench, and we were going to do it in West Falmouth or Seacoast.
Or Great Harbors.
And the further along we got into it, the more it became clear the trench wasn't going to be it, and that something else would be it. But we weren't prepared, certainly weren't prepared to go to town meeting with a specific expenditure on anything at this point, because of the trench being sort of obsolete now and not being ready to replace it with something that we wanted to tell folks to spend money on right now. So we've got time
And I think on the regeneration rates, I think there was probably more information on the cabin, though there was less on the
trenches.
the
EVO,
EVO, the
emulsified vegetable oil.
because they've only been used for a few years, and they, I think, estimating how long we'd need to re-inject the EVO based on how much carbon is uptake.
They did give us 2 or 3 years. They did make a statement that they
But
thought.
he's wondering if in that table, the rejuvenation rate for the trenches is also comparable. That was
question.
your question. I saw that question the first time you sent it. And I think the answer is no.
I agree with you. It's no.
Therefore, they should adjust the annualized cost.
No, because you don't need to do that with the trenches.
You never need to rejuvenate.
No, not in the 20-year time horizon that they did their calculations. No, the whole point of the trench is that it's the carbon source in a trench, because you've got, 12 inches
But
of...
if your time scale is only 20 years, then you're implying, unless you're guaranteed that it will go beyond X years, the
just
worst
have-
case is you have to redo it every X years.
Just have to amortize the 20-year
That-
thing over a yearly basis.
Well, that's how they did it, but then they have, when you do the installation of the trench, if you read the report, they say if you install the trench, you put a pipe in so that after this 20-year period,
That's right.
if you need to, you would retrench it. But that's sort of outside of the time horizon for comparing apples to apples. What they're saying is over a 20-year time horizon, these are the costs. And those costs would continue if you wanted to do it over 40 years, but they'd pick.
You may be right. It was 2 months ago that I read it, but
Yeah, no, I saw that,
but I've got 5 others, so I'm sure some
Right.
of them they've got to fix.
What's that?
yeah, yeah.
Well, we look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of it's irrelevant now because trenches are off the table for Falmouth. But that's...
But then it means you need all the same stuff for wells,
Right,
the same analysis.
right. All right, any other comments or questions about the CDM permeate active barrier? I think we have to vote to accept this at some point, and this is the point.
Well, I think we're going to send
Oh, you
these
want
points, right?
to wait?
Subject to clarification, I mean, there's
Okay,
only so many
wait.
times you're going to go back.
Why don't we ask
We
the
haven't gone
answers
back
to
to them yet.
Steve's questions before
Yeah,
we...
yeah.
Okay, fine.
I'm sending mine as well. So,
Okay, we'll hold off on the vote.
Thanks, okay, thanks, Eric.
Fine, that's fine. Any fertilizer bylaw fact sheet. I'm sorry Wynn's not here because I know he had a lot to do with this.
Yep, so this was written a while ago and has come back because there's an interest by the town manager's office to post some information on our bylaw so that people will know what's in it. So the hope is to put together sort of a fact sheet. I wrote this, Wynn reviewed it, we sent it to Basis, and we sent it to Webner, and they also made and to Buzzards Bay Coalition. So those 3 groups have all looked at this, they've made their comments, I incorporated them, and so I sent it around to the group. The idea is to have a readable document that we can post on the website, that we can basically give to or recommend to the selectmen as a fact sheet to help explain the bylaw that was passed.
All right, everyone's had a chance to look at it. Looks good to me. Any comments or additions or corrections? Did we get a copy for
I've got a copy.
Hilda?
Yeah,
While Hilda's coming up, could I, if you
just
send
wanna
your
look at it.
comments, also recommend how you think you may want it to be addressed? Because, I think we're beyond adding another chapter. What I see is a paragraph of clarifications, or maybe a correcting the table.
Yeah, correcting tables.
Yeah, but, some of the things Ron brought up, I think they can address it, but I think it's a question of, I think you already have a conclusion, even recommend a sentence or 2 or a paragraph to include in there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's fair. They're not done.
No, I mean, it's an electronic copy.
Can I ask a question about that? One of Steve's questions was about having O&M costs. And that, I think that ought to be something that you folks discuss, whether you want to actually get into all those tables on O&M, or if we want to compare installation capital cost to installation capital cost. Because that's an issue.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to go back there. There's something else on the
That's all
agenda. I apologize.
We're back.
The
Okay.
other
Well, we
chair.
can discuss that offline if you want.
Yeah.
I don't feel strongly, I just wanted people to realize that there are a lot of hidden problems with PRBs.
Yes.
And it sounds like there's plenty of time to address that in the future,
Yes.
whether it's in this particular report
Yeah. Yeah, I think from here on out, what we're going to know about PRBs is what we're going to create ourselves, because basically there are no working models of what we're thinking of that have been out there for any length of time anywhere. So, okay, any additions or corrections to this fertilizer fact sheet? This,
Move acceptance?
okay, move acceptance.
I'll second.
Just a minor comment, but not about this specifically, but about the program or the concept, is that maybe over the next 3.5 weeks, I would ask the committee, at least the committee, to just keep an eye out, see what you see between now and April 15th, in case you see these chem lawn companies start warming up out there,
Well,
just to
this
get an
is-
idea if it's registering yet. you know?
I think that's
Yeah.
the point. I think
Yeah.
the whole reason for this document
Right.
is to hand it to the Board of Selectmen. The enforcement officer is Division of Marine and Environmental Services. They're actually very supportive of enforcing the bylaw. And so what we're trying to do right now is give them a tool that they can use for education. And that's what this is. And I think we're starting that process now. So people may not know what the bylaw says yet. So
Right, well, I just thought we'd just get a sense of just,
if anybody...
I have not, so far, of course, everything is almost still frozen. But,
Yeah, right.
But you're right.
But today's the first day of spring again, and
See how soon they start popping up.
Well, we knew all along that enforcement was the Achilles heel of this, right?
And so we're
Well,
trying
I
to
think
help.
it's awareness,
But
awareness first, I
We've
think.
taken the high road that is
Yeah.
to be public education, and this is the beginning of that. I think there needs to be considered.
So if the
Good
committee...
night, gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming.
All right.
Thanks.
Appreciate it, Paul.
You know, if the committee votes this, what we'll do is send it to the town manager's office and say the committee voted this last night, and
Right, and I think once we get past the immediate issues of the town meeting and the ballot vote, then we probably can focus on this and figure out some sort of real educational program.
There you go.
Just one thing, it might be, I like the bold that you have in one of the bullets, and that might be that there might be additional bold little things that jump off the page at you as you move ahead. On the second page,
Oh, yeah.
in my copy there. So I think
Yep.
that's great, and I think that you've got the headings, which are good, but the bold kind of to me pops up and says, okay, here you go. Let's hone in on this point. So.
Yeah, you can fix that. Right? Just make them bold.
they have to make everything bold.
Not everything. I'm just saying selectively.
All right.
I could try and help with
Exactly.
that.
No,
as
it
well.
definitely livens it up to have bold in.
Well, you get an idea of draws you right into some of the very key elements
Right.
to it. So.
Right, good. Okay, a
So I
vote.
moved acceptance.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Got it.
Thanks.
All opposed? None. Okay. Cape Cod Economic Development Council grant, letter of intent due by April 10th. That was emailed around, was it not? Did everybody get a copy of that?
Yep.
I think the only one that's relevant to us is item number 5, an aquaculture project to introduce denitrification and nutrient assimilation into a compromised body of water. This project may be administered by an independent shellfish grower, by a municipality or other agency for the triple benefit of education, clean water, and environmental and economic sustainability. That sounds right up our alley.
Well, it's I can make a few comments.
Yes.
I mean, this was brought to my attention. You and I have discussed it a little bit, and I think that that the nice thing is I also spoke with the person who's the contact there, and said that about what we're doing, and that it's a municipal program, and it seemed like, and that we do have counterpart funding as well, so we have all of those dimensions to it. That in terms of looking at nutrient assimilation and denitrification through shellfish, we can work up a concept that I think would fit well and be complementary. Now, there's a total of $70,000 for the overall program, So I said, well, what do you expect for average size grant? She said, well, if you got a good one, go for the whole thing, you know. But
Oh.
we don't know. But we wouldn't. No, I'm just saying, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you had something that was good Cape-wide, but there's 5 areas here, so we would not look at that. But basically, I tried to get a sense of, should it be 5,000, 10,000, you know, whatever it is.
Right.
But she said, no, there's no particular guideline for that.
Was this Felicia Penn you were talking to, or who?
What?
Who were you talking to?
To Sari? What's her, no, her name is, she's...
Terry?
Terry, yeah.
Terry-
Why not
Terry
take her
McIntyre.
statement at face
At the
value?
commission?
Go for the whole thing.
No, we're not going to go for, we don't.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, no, this is a wholly owned subsidiary of the commission.
Yes.
We'll see, we'll see. If we need the whole thing, we'll go, you know, we can discuss this among ourselves. But we can, I think that it's could be a nice little complement to what we're doing, to fill in the matrix of some of those unknowns.
All right.
Who's actually submitting this letter of intent? Who's physically sending it? The town? Are we approving the concept?
What we were hoping, this also came to the
We
committee.
is you and Ron?
The committee also received this through the town manager's office.
Right.
Yeah.
Who thought if there were a fit that we should, they were wondering if we could look into it. And so that the vote tonight would be to allow Ron and myself
And Steve, if he
to
wants.
pursue the letter of intent.
Okay.
To write the letter. The letter of intent is actually a very simple thing to do. It's an online form. I mean, I printed it out. It's this long. It's not a full proposal. So
And it's very limited in number of words, too.
Okay.
right.
fine.
So the idea would be that we would file the letter of intent, but concurrent with that, we'd need to get approval from the Water Quality Committee to file the letter of intent. We have to go to Finance Committee because it's a grant. And then
To
the
file
board
an
is
to
an
file it?
application?
Yeah, that's because there are
That
certain.
makes no sense. We're going to have to think about that.
okay.
No, there are certain ones
I understood that they
where it
want, before
incurs
you
other
accept
costs to the
a
town.
grant, that you have to go see all these people. Applying
If
for
we
one makes
get
no
it.
sense.
That's what
And it's a letter of intent, even if they say go for it, we
Well,
could then go to
that's the thing. In this particular case,
Oh, it
we are
makes no
not
sense.
filing a grant application.
Okay,
We're
the letter of
filing
intent.
a letter
All
of
right,
intent.
Fine, that covers this.
That-
It's a letter of
that it
intent.
would- But concurrent with that, we'd want to let the town manager's office know that we were doing it.
Oh, frankly, we want him to either co-sign it or send it in themselves.
And it would probably be that you have to have the, there's a contact, there's a name of the organization. So it would be the town of Falmouth, which
Yes.
means that there's
right.
there's the content side, you know, writing a good proposal and making sure that the story fits with the rubric of the
Right.
grant application. And then there's the administrative side, making sure that DPW understands and the town manager's office understands. And this was the first step, is to make sure the Water Quality Management Committee was supportive of it.
Well, can you say briefly, what would the application say? You know, like 2 sentences. Or
Give
the-
us money.
No,
what?
give us money
For the shellfish demonstration project, Ron and I will figure out which aspect of the shellfish demonstration project fits with what they're trying to fund. And we would ask for funding, say it's 10 or 20 or 30 or
And it's not the whole, doesn't the whole Falmouth Shellfish Project fit with what they're trying to fund?
maybe. I haven't gotten that far into it, frankly. I think
Right.
that there are pieces of it. They're not going to fund the whole demonstration because
No.
that's more than even $70,000.
Right, but the-
So what I'm thinking that Ron and I need to do is find a discrete component of the shellfish demonstration project that meets their requirements, and they'd be funding that.
Let me read their requirements. Preference is given to ideas that produce new economic activity. That's probably not going to be us. But
Right.
Responds to a well-defined regional need or opportunity. Requires seed funding for early stage planning or implementation. We're probably beyond that. Creates lasting collaborations and creates sustainable models that have the potential to be replicated in other parts of the region.
Right.
Well, maybe that's your oyster reefs.
Well, we also have, there's an evaluation criteria, and this is the actual letter of intent. I went beyond that, because does the project address a specific need? Yes. The need is the need to remove nitrogen from our estuaries. Is the need specifically defined? Yes, we have a TMDL. Does the project represent a creative solution to that need? Using oysters to remove nitrogen to achieve TMDL credit is very unique. So less than 5 sentences. So that's the answer to that question. Project structure, is it well designed? Does the project support the retention and expansion of an existing program or start a new program? Is it well managed? Well, it's very well managed. So we're going to go through this, collaboration.
Right.
Does the project involve multiple collaborating organizations and partners? Yes. We're collaborating with DMF, the Town Manager's Office, the Water Quality Committee, Queen Master Farm Foundation. So we're going to...
We're good. Okay.
We're telling the story.
We're good. I think it does have to be submitted by the town and not by this committee, but you can prepare it for the town.
And I think it would be
and they'll-
appropriate to have a conversation.
Yeah, and just one other question. If whatever amount of money becomes available, what time frame?
This next year,
2015.
2015.
Okay.
So why couldn't it be
So it
to
could-
implement that year of your project?
Yes.
Or at least half of it.
Or some of it, yeah, whatever.
Up to 70K.
Yeah,
Right.
right, exactly. And so that's a key piece. The fact that it's $2015 allows us
Yes.
to
And then
shape it.
there's
Fine.
in-kind support, grant percent of total. I mean, it's a very
Fine.
standard
Good. Okay.
thing to do.
We can do this.
All right.
It's turning a crank.
I move approval of submitting the letter of intent.
Second,
Second or third.
discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We got it. Precinct meeting assignments. The precinct meetings are all on 2 days this time around.
Yeah,
3 of them are gathering on Wednesday, and 3 of them are gathering on Thursday, and
Thursday.
some of them are doubling up, so there's a total of 3 meetings each night.
right.
Which are the 2 dates again?
Just
April
look at the
2nd.
bottom of your
When-
agenda.
It's on the agenda, April 2nd and April 3rd, Wednesday and Thursday.
Well, I will do precincts 5 and 6. That's on Thursday.
Okay.
I'll do
And
1
I-
and 2 on Thursday and 8 and 9 on Wednesday.
One and
do
2 is,
Okay.
I'll do 3 and 4, 2 different days.
John,
John.
Nope,
can do
3
something
and,
on
yes,
Thursday.
3 and 4 are 2
You can do
different days.
Thursday.
I can-
Precinct
Well,
3.
well, you
Yeah.
pick it.
4.
I don't
I
care
want
which
to
precinct.
be at 3 and 4 because we have poster boards for them, and they're the most affected by these capital projects.
Yeah, well, I'll go to.
So you want to go too? Okay. I'll
I may
do,
go to 1 also.
I'll
because
do
it's
3 and 4.
Do you have anything that needs covering on the 3rd?
Well, there's precinct 7 on the 2nd, and there's 8 and 9 on the 2nd.
No, he
John is doing 8 and 9.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure I'll be available on the 2nd. That's
Oh,
Okay.
Okay, just,
Uh,
well,
we
come
can
to
have,
precinct 3.
yeah, more than one person should be.
So 7, do we have anybody for 7?
No, we don't. Yeah, that's Wednesday the 2nd.
Oh, Wynn said he would do
Oh,
that.
that's right. That's
Yep.
right.
And
Matt,
that's
doesn't Matt-
also Matt's.
Wynn and Matt. That's
Right.
right. They're not here. Sign them up. Okay. All right. So we got precinct 4, myself and Ron. Precinct 7, Wynn and Matt. Precinct 8 and 9, John. The next night, precinct 1 and 2, John and Steve. You want to go to precinct 1 that night?
That's
Or-
your precinct.
on,
Thursday.
On Thursday.
okay, yeah, I thought somebody just said to go to 3.
Oh, we can go-
Whichever
3 is
one.
fine. Whichever one you want. Take your pick.
Eric and I
Two
were
slots
doing
at
3 and 4.
I'll take precinct 1.
Okay, John and Steve. Precinct 3, myself and Ron. And precinct 5 and 6, Virginia.
Yeah.
And 4 is what night? Then the previous night?
Second.
4 is on the
Wednesday.
2nd, the Wednesday. And 3 is on the 3rd, Thursday.
Okay.
Where is precinct 1 meet?
Precinct
Permanent room.
Library.
And so we won't have a water quality meeting.
No, I think it's fair to say we won't have a water quality meeting. We have these poster boards, and we'll have fact sheets to hand out.
Right.
What time of day is it?
They're well, depends on which one.
7
One.
o'clock?
Most of them are 7. In fact, all of
They're
them are
all 7 o'clock.
All 7 o'clock. Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, reports of members and staff. You had a couple of things.
I got one thing. The Buzzards Bay Coalition has proposed a project. It's called Give the Harbor a Hand. It's changed a couple of names, but now it's called Give the Harbor a Hand. And their idea is to apply for what is called a 319 grant, which is an EPA grant.
They should call it Give the Harbor a Break.
The filthy 40 was where it started. It's gotten nicer and nicer. Now it's giving the harbor a hand. The vision of the project is to go to the homeowners along the waterfront in West Falmouth. It's West Falmouth Harbor that we're giving a hand, obviously, or they're giving a hand. And with the 319 grant and hopefully some support from the Water Quality Committee, to have homeowners either install eco-toilets or replace their current septic system with an IA system, innovative alternative septic system, that reduces nitrogen. So the goal is to take the property owners that are waterfront property owners and fix the nutrients coming from their septic, or remove the nutrients coming from their septic systems. The 319 grant is appropriate to this. If it's a watershed solution, if there's real TMDL established, if there's nitrogen or nutrient reduction in an impaired water body, these are all things that, so it fits in the 319 grant requirements. And the idea would be they would be approaching homeowners that are part of the Buzzards Bay Coalition. They have relationships. Obviously, they've been very active in West Falmouth, so they have stakeholders that are concerned, and they want to approach those stakeholders with an opportunity to give the harbor a hand. And that's the program. Wanted to bring it before the committee. I think it's very exciting because they are going to be giving these homeowners an option, either an IA system or an eco-toilet. So they'll be able to have...
They're paying for it?
Well, they would help pay for it.
They would help pay for it. That is exactly the point. An incentive program similar to the eco-toilet incentive program in terms of giving homeowners an incentive for replacing their current system with a nitrogen-reducing system.
How much?
It depends on how much of a grant they get. Their hope is that they would get $5,000 for a certain number of houses from the 319 grant, and the Water Quality Management Committee would match it with another $5,000. That's their
Up to a
the
point.
10 houses or however many houses.
Whatever the financial piece works for us. But first they've got to get theirs.
Yep, and one of the threshold requirements for applying for the grant is they have commitments from homeowners. So when they spoke to the state or the federal EPA manager of this grant, it was pretty clear that you'd want to have some letters of commitment, not firm, but sort of letters of interest or letters of intent, some sort of a sense that there are people who are willing to do this.
And they already have them?
They're working on it.
So the eco-toilet group would get some fascinating feedback because you'd be offering people 10K, 5K plus 5K.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of the existing, I mean, these people already had the chance to do it for 5K.
Right.
And either you already know about them or they said no.
Right.
Right.
And
It's
so now
actually-
you're saying, we'll up the ante.
Well,
Are
they're
you
saying.
interested?
Well, they're saying the
Yeah.
Buzzards Bay Coalition is doing this, and it's also targeted to a watershed that the Buzzards Bay Coalition has been very active in. So in some ways, it's an enhanced program in the sense that it's a specific watershed specifically for the waterfront homeowners who, by many accounts, are contributing more to the watershed. It's helping to actually get over the hump of the TMDL because we're so close in West Falmouth Harbor that there's maybe more of a nexus for people to do something. They feel like the doing of something actually is going to clean up the water body that they're looking at every day. So there's some nice features that way.
So it's a no-brainer. We've already or trying to get people to do this for 5,000.
Right.
And somebody's coming along and saying, we'll double that.
We'll match it, right.
Right.
Is that just for eco toilets or for also?
Oh, it is also IA system.
Didn't I say that? I'm sorry.
Yes, you did. You did.
I just
You
wanted
did.
to-
Yep,
that we
it's both, it's
diverted
both.
out.
And so
Oh,
people also were given a choice that they can, through our through our participation, they will hear all about the features, benefits, and advantages of eco toilets, and then they'll understand IA systems, and they'll be able to choose which they prefer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Strictly waterfront?
No,
Well, yeah.
Watersheds.
Waterfront.
strictly water frontage?
That was
I thought,
their scheme.
They are
maybe.
going to start on
Maybe so.
within a certain distance. It may not be waterfront, but
Yeah.
it's going to be probably within 300
other side
feet
of
or
the street.
500 feet of the actual water, because the belief is that those homes contribute the fastest. And that's part of why this could be really beneficial.
Why don't you come to the
Let me
microphone?
know.
Do they have a fair way of reaching everybody so somebody doesn't say afterwards, you didn't tell me about this before the money ran out?
I would hope so. I can bring that up.
That West Falmouth Boat Club is pretty active.
Ally wants to say something.
Microphone, please. No, we need a microphone.
You need a microphone because we're on TV.
Oh, sure. Okay. I was just wondering, I'm Alexandra Olmstead. I was just wondering what area of West, if this is going to be targeted for year-round residents of West Falmouth, or like, I'm just picturing people on Chappie Island and how willing they would be to do it just because they're, summer residents, or if I just think the success rate would be better for year-round residents that aren't, I was just wondering if they had thought that far ahead of the project.
That's a great question, and I think the idea is any resident along the water. And summer residents are there in the summer, but they're also contributing during the most biologically active period, so it's all good. I think anybody, is what they're saying.
Right.
Great.
Anyway, it's their project, and if they find some success, they'll be asking us to join them with essentially a variation on our existing eco-toilet program.
Right.
So,
Was the sewer region, the area that's to be sewered, is that going to be exempt?
in West Falmouth, there's no area being
Oh,
sewered.
that's-
It's just West Falmouth, yeah.
that's just-
Any other comments or questions or reports from members and staff? No? Okay.
That's all I had.
We did the minutes.
No, two things. One is that, just to put it, is that we had an event that was organized by the United Universalist
Oh, yeah.
Church.
Unitarian Universalist.
Unitarian Universalist Church on, well, organized but not, and sponsored by several groups, and Virginia participated, and I participated as a speaker, and Hilda and Earl. And then and we had what about?
And him and me, I think all of us were there.
Oh, Eric was there. Yeah, Eric and Wynn were there, but I don't think John and Steve were there. But it was, or Matt. I don't think Matt was there as well. But it was, I think about 50 people there or something.
Yeah, I would say 50, maybe 60.
And a good number of them were actually from the neighborhoods, which was the first time we had good representation. And the idea was basically just to tell the story of what we're doing and what is the plan for the Mara Vista area and the Falmouth Heights. So I think it was well received. Some good questions, some interesting comments. We got some actually information from the audience, which is great regarding. Well, it was credits for septic system improvements and this kind of thing, but things were brought up, and they did question some of the points that we raised. But it was a good interactive session, and it will be repeated with some of us on the 23rd, this Sunday, between 4 to 6 at the library. So there'll be another same basic information will be presented, and just so people can know what's coming, and it's sort of advising the community about our plans. So that will be, and so everyone's welcome. The whole town is welcome, and as an introductory. So it's at the main library in the Herman Room on the ground floor, at between 4 to 6 p.m. on Sunday.
Okay. Any other public service announcements or comments from committee members or staff? Okay, if not, Matt's not here, but if anyone else would like to make a motion
I
to
will
adjourn.
move adjournment.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. There is still some apple juice and probably some hermits over there. So you're all welcome to those, and all in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We got it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.